Alright, you think you're bespoke? Sustainably sourced, organic protein shakes make you a peak performance athlete. You're chugging kale smoothies, popping creatine, maybe even microdosing something your wellness guru swore wasn't just fancy dirt, all to feel like a modern god. Please. The ancient world had its own flavor of health freaks, the gladiators. And their idea of peak performance involved actual wood ash and a delightful, communal, sweat-infused beverage. Yeah, they were basically the OG juice heads, except instead of a gym selfie, they got a thumbs down from an emperor, and then a pointy stick through the throat. Talk about a brutal review section. Today, we're diving deep into the absolute dumpster fire that was gladiator nutrition, proving that humanity's obsession with optimizing the body, no matter how gross, is a tale as old as time. We talking about the Roman health freaks who redefined eating clean as eating charcoal and thought a good electrolyte drink was whatever dripped off their brow, proving that the more things change, the more our ancestors just found new ways to be disgustingly pragmatic. Get ready! Because the Midnight Meme historian is about to lay bare why these ancient muscle-bound murderers operated on a diet that makes your ex cooking look like a Michelin star meal, and spoiler alert, it gets worse. First up on this menu of misery, let's talk about the culinary masterpiece known as Hordeum, or the Barley Men diet. For those of you who think your vegan friend's quinoa is bland, imagine living on nothing but barley, day in and day out, like some kind of sad, grain-fed livestock. These weren't just athletes. They were being fattened up like pigs, literally, for slaughter. With a menu that makes prison food seem gourmet, because nothing says warrior physique like a thick layer of protective blubber. This high-carb low-glim diet was designed less for agility and more for resilience, ensuring they had enough subcutaneous padding to make the audience think they were actually getting a good long show before they bled out like a poorly drained hog. It was the original dirty bulk. Except the dirt was less about extra calories and more about general sanitation, or lack thereof. This wasn't some Spartan CrossFit cult where every meal was meticulously calculated for lean muscle mass. This was a logistical exercise in turning human beings into durable, disposable weapons. They were just fuel units, and barley was the cheapest, most efficient energy source to keep the fighting machines churning. Proving that even back then, corporations always found the cheapest option, no matter how depressing for the end. Imagine if your gym trainer told you your pre-workout was going to be a bowl of unseasoned gruel, then told you to eat up Buttercup. You've got to get strong enough to die impressively, because that's basically what these guys signed up for, willingly or not. And you thought your office potluck was depressing. At least nobody's fighting to the death after eating Aunt Carol's mysteriously lumpy potato salad. So, they're chugging down this barley mush, probably thinking, is this it? Is this my entire existence? This carb-heavy existence was less about getting shredded for the gram, and more about building a natural, fleshy armor that could take a few hits. It was the ultimate barbaric version of calories in, calories out. Except the calories out pod usually involved a dramatic theatrical death, which I guess is one way to hit your daily cardio goals. You know how today we have influencers showing off their what I eat in a day videos? Imagine a gladiator doing that, just scooping up some bland barley slop and grimly chewing while a Roman audience collectively shrugs, because it was just another Tuesday in the training camp. Now, if a diet of endless joyless barley wasn't enough to make you reconsider your life choices, let's sprinkle in some flair, shall we? Enter the legendary wood ash. Yeah, you heard that right! They were taking charred wood ash, basically what's left after you burn a pile of sticks, and mixing it into their slop like some prehistoric GNC smoothie. This wasn't some ancient superfood powder. This was literally fireplace residue, ingested for its supposed calcium content, because nothing says peak performance like eating the remnants of a campfire. It's like discovering your ancient Roman doctor prescribed a spoonful of fireplace soot for strong bones. Which frankly, sounds less like medicine and more like a punishment for being mildly annoying. This was their version of a calcium supplement, ensuring their bones were supposedly as hard as the emperor's heart, ready to withstand the brutal impacts of the arena. Forget your fancy bone broth or organic kale. These guys were on the original bone-fortifying regimen, powered by the carbonized remains of trees, proving that desperation is truly the mother of all biohacks. Imagine your personal trainer, some beefy Roman dude named Magnus, barking at you, "More ash! You weakling! Your fibula needs to be invincible," as you gagged on charcoal powder, because nothing says iron deficiency like actively eating what's left in the fireplace. And you thought those TikTok health gurus pushing mushroom coffee and essential oils were bad. At least those don't involve chugging a stranger's bodily fluids from a communal bucket. This wasn't about wellness or longevity. It was a factory floor formula designed to produce durable, disposable units for public entertainment. They weren't given gains in the sense we understand. They were given an internal armor of fat and strong bones, so they could bleed longer and put on a better show before they died. It's the ultimate expression of human expendability, proving that some things, like treating people as commodities, never go out of style. Let's be real, humanity has always been willing to swallow some truly disgusting crap. If it promises an edge, whether it's powdered rhino horn or a new crypto coin that promises to make you rich by Tuesday, and the Romans were clearly no exception. If you ever wondered what the dumbest health hack was, this has to be high on the list, right? Let me know in the comments what modern wellness trend you think these Roman physicians would be absolutely bewildered by. Or, let's be honest, probably try to adapt for the arena. And just when you thought it couldn't get any more appetizing, brace yourselves for the ultimate ancient electrolyte drink. Sweat. Oh, yes. Gladiators, those shining beacons of Roman hygiene, were known to re-ingest their own bodily fluids, sometimes even those collected from their comrades. Forget Gatorade. These bastards were gulping down their own sweat, probably filtered through a communal loincloth, which frankly sounds less refreshing than a colonoscopy. This wasn't some mystical ritual for spiritual purification. This was a desperate, grotesque attempt to replenish lost salts and fluids in a world where clean drinking water was less of a given and more of a lucky dip in the nearest act. Picture the scene! After a grueling training session, a gladiator, glistening with effort and probably a few open wounds, would scrape the salty runoff from their own skin, or perhaps that of a fellow warrior, and drink it down. It's the ultimate zero-waste, organic hydration strategy! And it's also the ultimate proof that humanity, when pushed, will do some truly vile things to keep the engine running, even if that engine smells vaguely of stale armpit. You know how today we have those fancy prime hydration drinks endorsed by YouTube sensations, promising peak performance and fruity flavors? Back then, the flavor profile was pure, unadulterated, human, proving that no amount of marketing can make a fundamentally gross idea sound appealing, unless you literally dying of thirst. This wasn't about pampering their fighters. It was about maximizing investment. You spent good money on these human weapons, so you made damn sure they had enough internal reinforcement to last a few rounds. The gladiator diet wasn't a health regimen. It was a military specification, a nutritional equivalent of hardening steel. Because in Rome, your body was just another tool in the imperial toolbox, and sometimes tools needed a good coating of ash and sweat to stay sharp. And you thought your boss was demanding? Imagine being told to collect your own sweat for rehydration because the company's too cheap to spring for a water cooler, which, honestly, sounds like something a modern tech CEO would try to implement to cut costs and boost employee resilience today. We've got our celery juice cleanses, our raw liver challenges, and even TikTok trends where people pretend to eat literal dirt for minerals, but at least those don't involve chugging a stranger's bodily fluids from a communal bucket. This wasn't some quirky health fad. This was a desperate, grotesque attempt to replenish salts, making every gladiator effectively a walking, breathing, fighting biohazard, proving that humans will literally eat or drink anything if they retold it will make them stronger or at least less dead. What's the most absurd, borderline disgusting thing you've seen someone do for health in the modern era? Tell me in the comments. I need to know humanity's current rock bottom, because ancient Rome set a pretty high bar for grossness. So, listen up! All you Silicon Valley biohackers injecting stem cells, wearing blue light blocking glasses, and boasting about your intermittent fasting routines. You think you're innovating? You think you're pushing boundaries with your personalized nutrition plans and performance-enhancing wearables? Please. The ancient Romans were doing your job to millennia ago, only they didn't have fancy apps or organic kale. They had desperation, a thriving combat industry, and a deep understanding that if you want a disposable killing machine, you feed it whatever makes it harder to break, even if that means ash and body fluids, proving that true biohacking has always been about ruthless efficiency, not comfort. The science of the Gladiator diet was less about protein synthesis and more about brute force pragmatism. High-carb barley for energy. Sure, but then there's the charcoal wood ash, supposedly packed with calcium to fortify bones, turning them into walking, talking, human bone shields. It's like a barbaric, low-tech version of modern sports medicine. Except instead of an MRI, they had a guy with a shovel and a bonfire, proving that sometimes the simplest solutions are the most brutally effective. They weren't optimizing for longevity or well-being. They were optimizing for spectacle, because a gladiator who lasted longer was a gladiator who sold more tickets. Just like a modern influencer whose drama keeps you scrolling, the ancient Romans weren't just brutal, they were brutally efficient. Their gladiators were the ultimate product of a system designed for maximum output and minimal comfort. A system that saw human life as a resource to be optimized and exploited. This wasn't about personal growth. This was about public spectacle because nothing said we re-civilized. Like watching two poor souls bash each other. Sprains in, while fueled by charcoal and their own stank. Proving that our definition of entertainment has always been a little ... flexible. And speaking of flexible, can you imagine a modern CEO trying to implement a gladiator-style diet for their employees for productivity gains? Here at Amazon, we believe in the power of barley and ash for peak performance. You know, some AI-driven HR department is already drafting that memo, proving that the more things change, the more we just find new ways to exploit each other for profit. This brutal pragmatism wasn't just limited to their diets. It was the entire Roman worldview. From their engineering marvels to their legal codes, everything was about efficiency, control, and making sure the empire kept running, even if it meant sacrificing a few thousand barley eaters along the way. They didn't care if you were happy. They cared if you were useful. Which, honestly, sounds a lot like modern corporate culture, where your mental health is secondary to quarterly reports. The gladiators were just another cog in the vast, bloody machine of Roman entertainment and control, and their diet perfectly reflects that, proving that even 2,500 years ago, the system was always rigged against the individual. And the best part? These dietary choices weren't some obscure, fringe practice. This was widely accepted medically sanctioned wisdom, passed down from one generation of trainers to the next. It's like finding out your doctor used to prescribe leeches and a good bloodletting for a common cold. Which, honestly, given some of the nonsense you see on social media today, feels shockingly relevant. So next time you see some influencer peddling activated charcoal smoothies for detox or claiming that raw water will cure all your ailments, just remember! The Romans did it first. Only they called it survival, and it tasted like a dirty campfire and existential dread. And trust me, it gets even more absurd when you look at the other health practices these Roman health freaks embraced.